Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Corner 3 here on Pittsburgh Sports Live in the Beaver County Auto Studios. As always, Cale Berger, Alan Saunders, back with me after a week hiatus. I have to say, I really miss you, especially on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do have a wife, so that's it's kind of the thing.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, missed some big-time recruiting news that we have to address that didn't have a chance to last week. The Pitt Panthers get their first 2019 commit for the 2019 class on Monday night of last week from Gerald Drumgoole, small forward, 4-star. He was a guy that was visiting this past weekend on Saturday, and I think he took multiple visits to Pitt as well. First commit for Jeff Capel in this class. A big-time get, a guy with length that can shoot, can rebound very well, plays for one of the top programs, the La Lumiere School, I believe. One of the top high school programs in the country, and a big-time get for the Panthers to get this class rolling. And now that they finally got this first commit, we got another 4 guys or so that are visiting this weekend. Seems to be starting a trend now and getting this recruiting class rolling for Jeff Capel.
Yeah, I mean, I think Drumgoole is the perfect fit for taking that sort of Jared Wilson frame role. He's a senior, he's going to graduate. I think, to me, instantly a member of the starting rotation.
Absolutely.
To go with Trey McGowan, kind of in between Trey McGowan's and Audis Toney as a guy that could play the 3, could play the 4. He's about 6'5", 6'6", less than 200 pounds. Physical guy for his size, I think. He played some tight end. Was actually recruited Division I level as a tight end. Maryland, I think, offered him, and a couple other places. I think he's just going to play basketball now. But so an athlete, a shooter. I think that's the biggest thing is that you look at this Pitt team, you look at that Boston College game Tuesday night where they shoot, I think, 10 of 37 from 3 or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
And they need outside shooters. If their game is going to be, if option 1 for Pitt is going to be the dribble drive penetration, every team that does that, option 2 is a kick out.
Exactly.
And they don't have anybody, really, besides Wilson Frame right now, that is feeling real comfortable shooting those kick-out three-pointers. And if they can get somebody that can, it'll, I think, 1, make their offense far more dynamic, and 2, it'll stop teams from playing the zone so much, which has really made it hard for especially Trey McGowan's as that sort of second guy to get going and get to the rim.
Yeah, Trey McGowan's had a really difficult last few weeks, especially shooting the basketball. But I think going into this season, I don't think anyone really anticipated how important guys like Jared Wilson Frame and Sidy Ndir would be. And as we're seeing the ACC schedule roll on, Jared Wilson Frame has been, I think, option 1B offensively. He has been shooting the lights out in the last 2 weeks or so, even longer than that. So getting Drumgoole, I think, really fulfills, I think one of the needs that this team will have going forward that not a lot of people are addressing. Everyone's talking about we're going to need big men. They're going to need centers. Well, I think the second most important thing is to add shooting. And I think Drumgoole is a guy that he has the length. He's got a great rebounder as well. So even if don't have a big man yet in this class, he's still a guy that is going to be able to rebound from, like you said, the 3 or the 4, kind of like Audis Toney is doing for them right now. So I think this is a great get for the Panthers. He's really going to provide that outside shooting that they're desperately going to need going forward. And it's starting to feel like they're getting a young core together that's going to be, I think, going forward the next 2 or 3 years, going to be really competitive in the ACC, pairing this guy with McGowan's and Johnson. And we got 3 other guys that are making official visits this weekend as well. The most recent one announced was Ibrahima Diallo, who will visit this week. He's from Senegal. He's a center, and he's got a few D1 offers. But you look at the tape, and the guy is powerful. I mean, the guy is a big body, and that's certainly what Pitt needs. I mean, Pitt has been getting bullied down low. They had a game last week where they only had 1 defensive rebound between Kenny Chukwuka and Terrell Brown. I mean, they need size desperately. He looks like a guy. He looks like a physical specimen. I mean, the guy is jacked as a high schooler. I mean, if this is able to be a get for Jeff Capel, he's going to be very important for this team going forward if they're able to convince him to sign with the Panthers.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is when you look at him, and most 7-footers kind of plod around a bit. They don't get up and down the floor very well. He seems like a better athlete than most of the 7-footers I've watched. And the thing about him, and you pile on a couple of typical tropes. Is that okay? Well, the first one is that just big men take longer to develop, and the bigger the big man,
Yeah.
the longer it takes. And at 7 foot, I've seen some people say 7'1". He's got a 7'9" wingspan. That's going to take time.
Exactly.
One. Two is you're talking about a guy who's played he hasn't played at he's played at some of these like small kind of basketball academy style programs, which, don't get me wrong, have a lot of talent, but it's not necessarily high level prep basketball where like it's intensively coached. It's more like AAU basketball than it is like talking about Drumgoole from a program like La Lumiere, where it's like a national power and they're playing all the best schools in the country. They are playing a traveling schedule, but I just think it's a different kind of environment. It's also his second high school since coming to the United States, and then you have the fact that there's a language barrier involved. It's English is not his first language, so I think he's a player that there's definitely a desire and a need. Like every team needs big men. Any 7-footer is an advantage, but I think expectations should definitely be tempered as a guy. Like he's not going to be a guy that's going to come in like I'm saying about Drumgoole. He's not going to be a guy that's going to come in and start next year. He is a guy that's going to come in and provide minutes probably, but it's going to be a process for any player that big, and especially one in his situation. And then Pitt has some other players that are kind of in that same boat, sort of timeline-wise, coming in this weekend too. And Julian and Justin Champagne, twin brothers from Brooklyn. They're about 6'7", 6'8". One is more of a perimeter player. One is actually more of like a forward-facing four kind of guy. But again, they are currently supposed to come out in the class of 2020. Academically, they can graduate this year. Most of the talk is that if they do move up to 2019, it will be coming in with Pitt in this class. And so another two guys that are important to Jeff Capel that could be good fits. I think one of the things that gives Pitt an advantage in this recruitment is just the number of scholarships they have. They've got 5 scholarships in this class. I mean, there's only 13 in Division I basketball, so it's pretty rare for a school to have 5 scholarships open, and especially a high-level school like Pitt is. And so the fact that Pitt has 5 scholarships, I think they are in a unique position to say, hey, we can take twins. We've got 2 scholarships for you guys to come in here. They are not rated evenly. One of them is like a 4-star. The perimeter player is rated as a 4-star. The post player is rated as a 3-star. I haven't seen them play in person. I haven't, and their film is interesting because it's really hard to tell them apart. And so, I have a hard time making like a projection kind of analysis for them. But the fact that they're 2020s and they're going to move up to 19s, I think. I mean, you saw Pitt do that last year with these Tony and Trey McGowans, and I think you've kind of started to see the difference between a freshman and Xavier Johnson, who was a 19, and 2 guys in Tony and McGowan's that moved up a class. I'm sorry, Johnson was an 18. 2 guys that moved up a class, and that I think Johnson's dealt with the grind of the ACC schedule a little bit better than the other 2 guys have. And so I think anytime you're going to move a guy up a class, it's going to kind of be some of those same themes where there's going to be some bumps in the road and it's not going to be immediate stardom, but certainly talented players. Nice to see Pitt recruiting New York again. That was such an important part of so many of the teams that they built through Jamie Dixon and Ben Howland, and good to see that as well.
Yeah, really excited to see what Justin and Julian, the kind of players they are if they were to end up at Pitt. Like you said, they're kind of each side of the spectrum. One's more offensive. The other one says himself, I'm a great defender. And that's something the Pitt needs as well. But overall, the big thing is length. I mean, these guys are just long. And you factor in Drumgoole and Diallo as well. If Pitt is not going to have that the huge lineup down low, at least they can have length across that front line at the 3, the 4, and potentially the 5. Quickly back to Diallo, I think that I agree that he's probably more of a project for sure. coming out of prolific prep. But I think that he's in kind of a perfect situation because if he's able to be to learn under the tutelage of Tim O'Toole, who is notorious for developing big men, we've seen the jumps that Terrell Brown has made this year. I mean, he still maybe is not the best rebounder or as aggressive as we'd like, but he's certainly become, I think, a better shot blocker. He seems more confident down low. So I think you get him in the hands of a guy like Tim O'Toole that can develop him. I think with that kind of a frame, that kind of potential, I think certainly could pan out if he ends up signing with the Panthers.
Yeah, actually, my story at Pittsburgh Sports Now yesterday, I kind of took a look at some statistics from last year and compared them to this year, just to kind of put some numbers to the progress that Pitt has made. And one of the areas that really stood out to me, rebounding and blocks, because it's all the same guys, right? It's just Brown and Chukwuka. It was just Brown and Chukwuka. I mean, maybe a little bit of Shamil Stevenson last year. Rebounds are up. Offensive rebound percentage is up. Rebound margin is up. Blocks are up. And that's all the same guys from last year to this year. And I think that's actually one of the most impactful areas that this coaching – I mean, yes, the three freshmen, City and Deer, huge parts of this team. But I think when you look at – I actually had a sort of back and forth discussion on Twitter yesterday about is it fair to call this Jeff Capel's team and like a true year one for Jeff Capel? And I think it is. Half the minutes have been played by players that he brought in, but also I just think I look at Terrell Brown as a different player than I did a year ago.
Absolutely.
In the things that he's been able to show. He's still, obviously far from perfect. He's still inconsistent, still not great shooter, but his ability to be an impact shot blocker and a shot alterer is something that was not there last year, is there this year. And you can point to this coaching staff directly and say, this is where this came from, clearly.
I think they clearly understood what they're working with Terrell Brown and decided, okay, he's probably not going to become that elite rebounder, at least now. So what they, I think, empowered him to do was, hey, you are the longest player on this team. Use your length. You have a great knack for blocking shots, and he certainly showed that this year. I do think, though, that I think Kene Chukwuka has kind of taken a step back. I mean, he kind of looks to me, especially in ACC play this season, just kind of out of sorts at times. And he was a guy last year that provided a lot of energy, that was an offensive rebounder, that was kind of that grinded out, grittier guy down low. But at times this year, he has just kind of looked lost, I would say, out on the floor. And I hope that he figures it out. But, I'm not sure, what kind of changes they made with Chukwuka. But certainly at times this year, he's looked kind of out of sorts there.
I think he plays too much. I think he played too much last year, too. I think he's a guy that you'd probably feel more comfortable if he was playing about 10 minutes a night.
Playing out of necessity.
I think they're playing him more out of necessity than they want to. And I think you see that because, I think he's a limited player offensively.
Yeah.
That's going to continue. He doesn't have, elite athleticism. He's not that tall. But I think he had energy last year.
He did.
He brought energy to the team. And I think it's hard to bring energy when you're tired.
Exactly.
Right? It's hard to be like that energy spark guy if you're beat, right? And so I think that we're seeing some of that. And that, if one of the things you're going to provide is energy, you've got to be fresh. They've got to go hand in hand. And I don't feel like he has been.
No, I agree with that. And actually, I think that's something that can be said for the team as a whole, especially those younger guys. Xavier Johnson on Tuesday night against Boston College, I mean, until he picked it up and finally got into a groove in the second half of that game, he looked exhausted through stretches of that first half. And, rightfully so. The guy's pretty much been carrying the team since they started ACC play, outside of a few great performances from Trey McGowan's offensively and the recent resurgence of Jared Wilson-Frame, but he looked beat. And they said it on the broadcast in between the Kai Bowman cam. They made timeout. One of the stupidest things I've ever seen. They treated Kai Bowman like he was Michael Jordan, and I know he's a good player, but you really are going to have a split screen on a national TV game and highlight just one.
And to me, the most ridiculous part of it is, okay, he's their primary ball handler, which means he's on the screen most of the time anyway.
Exactly.
If it was like let me try to think of it. Let's say it's Zion, right? Okay, now forget that Zion's better and but just he plays off the ball.
Exactly.
Okay, so
And you see in the cuts he makes.
You would actually be seeing something different
Yes.
in watching Zion play, and then they were playing zone defense. So he's just standing there with his hands up. Like, what are you looking at? You're just watching Kai Bowman, hey, okay. And
it was
very interesting.
He ran a little bit to the left. He ran a little shuffled to the right.
They're not doing anything.
Pitt Twitter was so angry.
It was asinine. It was all unfolding right in front of me too, because the Boston College, the visiting media sits right behind the ESPN crew. So I had the ESPN crew and their producers and their camera were all right in front of me, and I'm just laughing and watching Pitt Twitter.
Yeah, Pitt Twitter was losing their mind. They were definitely going nuts. But one of the most ridiculous things I've seen, and you're right, he wasn't. He went like 0 for 5 in the second half. Like, they put the screen up, and he like wasn't making a shot. So ridiculous. But regardless, on the other side of the screen, you saw that Xavier Johnson just looked worn out, and I think Audice Toney looks a little worn out too. And listen, this isn't the NBA. You're not giving guys a DNP because for rest. I mean, you got 30 games or so. But I'm certainly interested to see if Jeff Capel, what he does or what his plan is to try and give these guys a little bit of a breather. I'm not sure if it's maybe lighter practice going forward or something like that, because they're clearly still adjusting to the grind of college basketball, and the ACC's taken its toll so far, as it does on everybody, and those guys are certainly looking gassed at the moment. But another team that was cooking with gas last night. You like that?
No, I was kind of ham-fisted.
The Pitt women's hoops team gets their first ACC victory in over a year, since February 1st of last year against Clemson. The first one under new head coach Lance White. Breaks an 11-game losing streak to start ACC play this season. 18 straight games they lost in ACC play dating back to last year. They get a huge victory, 91-78 last night over the North Carolina Tar Heels. And Alan, let me tell you, I was there last night on the call for WPTS Radio, and it was one of the best shooting performances I've seen in person. I mean, this team at the half was 9 for 12 from 3. Everything they threw up, it was like 10-2 to start the game. And this is something we haven't seen from a team that, frankly, has struggled to put the ball in the hole all season. They're 8-0, now 9-0 when they score over 60 points, and in games otherwise, they were like 1-15 or so. But really an impressive performance last night that I think needs to get they need to get a shout out for it. And congrats to Coach Lance White getting his first ACC victory.
Yeah, I like Lance. He's a good guy, and I think they've done a lot of hard work in identifying some areas where they can actually be impactful on offense. And I think you saw it with Cassie Walsh and with Danielle Garvin, and that they've really figured out a way to get the ball in their scorers' hands. I think more than they were earlier this year. I mean, it's so hard. You have you come into the season and you figure, okay, Asia Bugg's going to be our point guard, and she can dribble a little bit, and she can break down defenses, and she can distribute. Yeah. And then we're going to have Elena Gribble, who can stand up and shoot the three as a 6-foot player, and have a combination of size and length and shooting. And then you go into ACC play without either of those players.
Yeah.
And then kind of have to reinvent the wheel and figure out what is going to make their offense tick going forward. I've been impressed with Danielle Garvin's entire season. From the very first game I watched, I saw the way she was just assertive in a way that she hadn't been in the past. And, a couple of seniors that have really stepped up their game this year, and really happy for those two players. But, the ACC is a grind in women's basketball too. And, there were some games where, let's be honest, they don't have the talent level to compete with a Notre Dame, with a Louisville,
and no one really does.
With a Duke, with a going on down the line, they're going to Florida State. That's a team they probably can't hang with either. But there were some games earlier in this year that they could have won. Yeah. Maybe you could even say they should have won. And the fact that they went on an 11-game losing streak and were still able to get better and improve, I think that really shows a lot about Lance White and this coaching staff. He's got a fantastic coaching staff as well. A ton of experience.
Terry Mitchell.
And just passion that you can see.
Yeah.
And they've really got this team still bought in, still improving at this point in the season. And to me, that's two seniors that aren't going to be here going forward, and it still brings up questions about what the rotation is going to look like next year. But I think it just shows the kind of people and the kind of ability Pitt brought in as coaches. And talking about Jeff Capel, that's his team. Yeah, this is not Lance White's team.
No.
I mean, he has 100% inherited players. He didn't get to pick a single one of them. And so really, I mean, this is a year zero situation for Pitt women's basketball.
Yeah.
But to me, I think the fact that he's got these, even knowing that he's got these girls still bought in, they're still improving, that they're playing individually at the highest level they've played in their collegiate career, I think all hugely positive signs for that program.
You look at the attitude that Lance White has brought into this program from day one. It's been positivity. It's been player empowerment. And that was something that you probably really couldn't say under Susan McConnell-Serio, in years prior. But Lance White came in and, read a great story. Cassidy Walsh came into his office right when he was hired and said, I want an opportunity to play. And he said, you're going to have that opportunity to prove yourself. And sure enough, a player that was playing, less than 10 minutes a game, just a player lost in the crowd over the past few years, comes in and she's been, the second leading scorer on the team this season, was the leading scorer for the majority of it until hitting kind of a rough patch at the beginning of ACC play. But she has a career high last night with 22 points, 8 for 10 from the field, 6 of 8 from the three-point line. Had to exit the game after she got an elbow to the nose. Hope she's all right. And then Danielle Garvin, another player that wasn't even a starter last year, that was just kind of in the rotation. But you could tell that she had some offensive skill, but just wasn't getting a great opportunity. And this year, Lance White says, all right, you're my starting power forward. We're going to feed you the ball in the low post. And she's had multiple performances this year where she scored 20 points. She had 27, another career high last night. So those are two players specifically that I think have just that idea of player empowerment, of just complete belief in saying, hey, it is a kind of a year zero for Pitt women's basketball. But just coming in and saying, hey, I mean, we're going to ride with you. We're going to let you lead us, and they've certainly done that. But I think what you said was, you lose Asia Bug, who is going to be your primary ball handler, the only team that can really get their own shot, which is really important on this team. She goes down for the year with blood clots. You have Elena Gribble, who was a knockdown three-point shooter. She had to step away from the game because of concussion. So they're dealing with just so many key players not able to play, but finding a way to, like you said, keep getting better week in and week out. Jasmine Whitney, I think, has been fantastic, stepping in now as the starting point guard for the last 2 seasons. She looks incredibly comfortable. But it was a game last night that I think was a culmination of a lot of hard work and a lot of some struggles for this team. But really exciting to see that they were able to get their first ACC victory, and exciting that Coach Lance White, he's happy after every game, but he was ecstatic after last night's game, and he was a little wet because they threw some water on him and stuff in the locker room. But he was so happy, and I asked him, I said, Coach, have you, where does this stack up on your all-time Valentine's Day gifts? And he laughed and he said, this might be the best one. So it was certainly a great scene last night, and congratulations to Lance White, and I think the future's bright for Pitt women's basketball.
I've got a non sequitur to end with here. There's a tweet going around about there was a hiker in Colorado who killed a mountain lion with his bare hands a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Name an athlete that if you heard he or she killed a mountain lion with bare hands wouldn't surprise you. How about name a basketball player that if he or she killed a mountain lion with their bare hands, it wouldn't surprise you?
I mean, I could give
Zion doesn't count.
I mean, I could give you a few. I think Boban for sure. Boban Marjanovic. I mean, he is,
he would have also skinned it, hung it, filleted it,
wore it.
Yeah, and then wore it. Yeah.
I will say one of the great things that come out of the recent trade deadline was him going to Philly, and Philly just going full in marketing the meme of Boban. He's dancing to the Philadelphia 76er, so incredible. So he looks like he's straight out of Game of Thrones. So I'm definitely gonna say Boban. I feel like Giannis could just. He's just so long and he's a freak, but I don't know.
He's a freak.
There's a few players
and aggressive enough, I think.
Yeah.
My answer is Steven Adams. Adams.
He's the other he needs a Game of Thrones cameo in the final season.
Steven Adams might have just convinced the Cougar to walk away.
He just walked up and said no.
No. Get out. And you know what? He's from those people.
Plus, he doesn't claim Pitt, so he'd be ready to fight.
Well, oh yeah, true, yeah, anti-Panther. No, but I feel like just in general, people from like Australia and New Zealand, there's a lot of things there that try to kill you on a regular basis. They have a little more familiarity with that type of experience.
I wouldn't want to fight a kangaroo.
No, and then there's like crocodiles,
emus.
And, yeah,
there was a war fought against emus.
Yeah,
that the humans lost.
I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my answer, Steven. I think I would take, if you had to pick an NBA player to kill a mountain lion, just one. Give me Steven Adams every day of the week.
You know what? I got a bonus answer.
All right.
I got Patrick Beverley.
Well, that's
because he's gritty and he's not going to back down.
That's a good. He doesn't have the physical traits that like Steven Adams or Boban does, but he's got the character to come out. He's like the hiker in this story. He's the scrappy underdog that beats the mountain lion.
He's James Franco in 127 hours. He's gonna beat the odds. That's a good one. I wasn't expecting that at all. But that is gonna do it for us here today on the Corner 3 on Pittsburgh Sports Live. Always, remember, make sure to subscribe. Helps us out a lot here. Follow me on Twitter, Cale_Berger. Follow Alan.
And the site, PGA
and the
Sports
site,
Live.
Pittsburgh Sports Live.
And on YouTube. And I'm running out of things to put down there. Yeah, I'm out. That's it. That's all we got.
But once again, that's going to do it for us here in the Beaver County Auto Studios. We'll be back with another edition of the Corner 3 next week on Pittsburgh Sports Live.